Shalom, shalom. I want to give our honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, brother Yahweh, the service. Back at it again with another video from the Spirit, right? So this today is this who matches the curses in Deuteronomy, right? So in the Bible, right, there's a book called Deuteronomy, and there are these curses, right, that the Lord placed on the Israelites, His chosen people, right? So in 2025, we're trying to see what race or ethnic group actually matches the curses in Deuteronomy, right, that are to be put on the Israelites for the disobedience, right? So we're gonna get into this thing. Right. So last video we covered Deuteronomy 28 and 16, and we had covered 54. Right. So now we're finna get some more curses. Right. So let's get into this shit. Right. And first I'm gonna start off with Baruch. I'm gonna bring this out first. This book of Baruch, chapter 2, and we're gonna start at verse number 30. Right. It starts says, "For I knew that they would not hear me because it is a stiff necked people. But in the land of their captivities, they shall remember themselves." So the Lord said He knew that the Israelites wouldn't hear them. He already knew that. We brought that out also, right, in book of Deuteronomy chapter 31. Right? He told Moses that these people they gonna turn from me, right? They're gonna turn from me and I'm gonna scatter them, right? It says, but in the land of their captivities, when you see that's a plural word, because when you actually look into it, right, the Israelites have been in more than one captivity, right? They've been in more than 10 captivities, right? You have your major captivities, but you also have your minor captivities. When you read the book of Judges, there are a lot of minor captivities that the Israelites been into, right? And then also you have your major captivities, which would be the Syrian captivity, the Neo-Babylonian captivity, the Medo-Persian captivity, the Grecian captivity, the Roman captivity, uh, right there. So again, that's that. And then not only that, you had the you had the sub-Saharan slave trade, right, with the so-called Black Hispanics, Native Americans. They was a part of that. The Israelites, you know what I'm saying? Also you had the silk slave trade, right? With the Moabites had them in captivity again. So there are plenty or plethora of captivities that the Israelites went in because of their disobedience to the Most High, right? And so again, we're going through different curses, and we're aligning up with which racial group actually does this attach itself to, because not all races or people or ethnic groups are under these curses, right? So we'll keep going as a whole in totality, right? You can't just say, well, yeah, I do know a couple of Moabites that might fit that curse. No, as in totality as a people, right? We looking at it as a people as a whole, right? Not just looking at ones and twos, looking at people as a whole, right? It says, but in the land of their captivities, right, they shall remember themselves. And so when you go into it, right, the book of Judges, right, shows you, right, the different captivities that the Israelites was in, they will remember who they are and they will return back to the Lord. Right. So right now, right, the Israelites are in captivity right now, and now they're waking up and realizing who they are. Right. The so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are realizing who they are according to the Bible. Right. And that's because one of the big things how we know who we are is the curses. Right. That's one of the main things how we know, and then also in the book of Romans, chapter 8, where it says, because our spirit bear witness with the spirit that we are the children of God, right? And so we look at these curses and things like that as well and see that, dang, this applies to our people, right, as a nation, right? So let's keep going, right? It says, and shall know that I am the Lord their God, for I give them an heart and ears to hear, right? So I'm going to keep reading. It says, and they shall praise me in the land of their captivity and think upon my name. Right? You got a lot of Israelites waking up every day, right? So-called blacks, especially Native Americans, waking up, right? Because a lot of people, it's not just a lot of people, there are a nation of people who say they are the true people, but that's not the case, you know. That's all I'm gonna say on that. But it says, in return from their stiff neck, right, and from their wicked deeds, and they shall remember the way of their fathers which sinned before the Lord, right? So let's go. Let's put that out there, right? And the Israelites, they went off, right? So let's go to some curses. Let's go ahead and dive into this joint, right? Deuteronomy 28, and we're gonna start at 28 and 28. That's what I'm gonna start at. Deuteronomy 28 and 28, right? We're gonna start here, right? So it's the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 28. It says, the Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. So it said the Lord will smite the Israelites with madness, meaning their mind will be bad. Something is wrong with them, right, in their head, right? So let's get into that, right? When we look at our people as a nation, right? We the only people that go and rap about being taking one another's life, right? We glorify taking one another's lives, right? We glorify whoring out our women, right? And all kind of madness, drugs and alcohol, all that's something is wrong with your mind. When you glorify taking your people from the same place as you, it's something's wrong with your mind, right? You got these group of individuals what they call YNs, right? Where they're claiming blocks, right? Where they're saying, well, this is my block. If you come around to my block, I'm gonna take your life, right? I'm gonna unalive you. If you cross that line, right? And we're gonna go to your area, right? But the whole time, these Negroes don't even own the block. They're renting. Probably ain't got their rent paid. But they're calling it their block as if they own it. Something is wrong with you. Your mind is bad. You're in the land of your captivity, right? In the projects, in the hood, talking about this is my block. The whole time you paying rent. Your mind is bad, right? You got to think about it. They go out, they don't do nothing but smoke weed, and shoot at each other all day. Your mind is bad, right? Then we go and we look at it from the aspect of our people believe believe that Christ is so-called white man, right? Your mind is bad because the Bible clearly tells you that he's not, right? And you can have some people that say that they finally say, okay, this is what Christ looks like. Oh, not color don't matter. Something is wrong with your mind. And a lot of our people have that dang, I forgot that name, but that syndrome. But it's a certain syndrome where you basically take a liking to your oppressor, right? As much as bullcrap as Christianity is, and the so-called white man stuff that in our minds, and our people still believe in it, right? A pastor hooping and hollering. If you're in church, and a so-called pastor or something blows on you, then now you've been delivered from the demons, right? Because you did a lot of shouting. Your mind is bad. Our people, they live their lives Monday through Friday, wicked as hell. Then they say they go into this building and hoop and holler. Now they feel like they got salvation. Now they feel like they did something righteous because they gave a man a couple of dollars or something. Your mind is bad. That's madness, right? Our women out here saying, "Oh, we don't need a man." Did you know that you don't see the so-called white race saying, "I don't need," white women saying they don't need a man. They don't hear that. The only women that you hear say they don't need a man it's so-called black women, right? And Hispanic women, right? They say, oh, I don't need a man. But you don't see these other nations out here talking like that because they see the value in the man. They see the importance of men. They see the importance of a household being together, right? Your mind is bad. Our people's mind is madness, madness, right? You got, I mean, there's so much. I mean, you got our people. They also not only that, but they also deal with a lot of trauma, right? A lot of them have depression, right? Because different things that they been through in their lives. A lot of sisters that's been in bad situations, right? SA, right? You know, and then we have some young boys that had SA, you know. So they grow up, you know, and they harboring so much there's so much stuff in their mind, right? And they depend on alcoholism, uh, weed, dope, right, to help deal with the issues because their mind is bad. They've been stricken with madness, right? You got men out, little boys out here, little so-called black boys out here portraying to be a dang woman, right? You got Dwayne Wade calling his son, which is a boy, a she. That's madness, right? You got these dyke studs, what do you want to call them, right? They go around and start taking testosterone pills, growing beards, getting deep voices, chopping off their breasts. Now they saying that, man, madness, right? Stricken with madness, right? And when you look at it, it's crazy because when it comes to our community, right, you got straight so-called black men, you got some gay so-called black men, straight like that. Right, and a lot of our brothers is you know the other way, right? More than it was should be, right? It was so crazy. The sisters they rather be around the effeminate men, right? The effeminate men more than they be more than a man that's not effeminate, right? They glorify a man being effeminate, being all you know broke in man, right? Sugar entertainment. They prefer that. They'll be friends with them. They'll talk to them better. But a man that has testosterone, a manly man, oh, they want to talk down on him. Oh, it's toxic masculinity. Oh, this, no, that. Madness. Madness. Mind is bad. Right? Our people's mind is bad, right? So now I want to get that. Now let's get some more. I want to just talk on that. Like our people, when you look at it, it says an astonishment of heart. Bro, you got our sisters out here, bro. They say this is another thing of madness. Our sisters, they walk around, they ain't got no clothes on. No, I'm talking about not all sisters, but a good bit of sisters. They walk outside, nothing but body showing. They you know, y'all know what I'm talking about, right? But then they say I want a good man. How the hell do you say you want a good man and you ain't doing nothing but showing off your body for the world to see? But you expect to find a good man and say, I want her. When the whole world can see you, the whole world know what you got going on. Right? Madness. Men walk around here walking with their women. I seen this woman, I was a so-called black man, walk with his woman. She got a skirt on, her cheeks all out. And he said, yeah, this is my woman. Something is wrong with us as a nation. Right? It's stricken with madness, man. Truly stricken with madness. Right? You know, our people out here bugged out on drugs. You know what I'm saying? Geeking, going crazy, right? And they glorify, you know, being not sober, right? You know, I at the plantation that I'm at, you know what I'm saying? Brothers, they just talking about how they can't wait to go home and spark up a blunt. It's just crazy. This is crazy, man. But our people really are stricken with madness, man. Right? So let's jump down to verse 32. We're gonna hop on some stuff too. Right? So it says, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thy eyes shall look and fill with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. So we're gonna stop right here because I want to bring out some key points on this right here. I want to bring out some key points. All right. Let's see what we got here. All right. So I want to show y'all some pictures, right? This is a good one right here. Right? This is a real good picture right here. View image. Right? This is a good image right here. Right? What you see here is our people right here. Right? And they're not only is they're selling the families, right? They're selling the children too. So you will have where the children would go to the parents would go to different plantations, right? Right, you could be you might the parents might go to one parent might go to the Georgia plantation, one might go to a plantation in Virginia, right? And the children they might go to a plantation in South Carolina, right? And there's nothing that these slaves could do to stop their children from being taken away from them. They couldn't say, well, hold on, right? Let's go to another picture. They couldn't say, stop, don't do that, right? Look at that, right? Crime, taken away from their parents, right? Let's see. Right, let's read this. Let's go this, right? It says, let me read it. I'm gonna blow it up for y'all. Right, it says 10 likely and valuable slaves at auction on Thursday, the 24th. Right, we will sell in front of our office without any kind of unit or reserve for cash at 11 o'clock. 10 as likely Negroes, right? As any ever offered in this market. Among them is a man who is a superior cook, a house servant, and a girl about 17 years old. Right? She's still a youngin', right? A first-rate house servant and an excellent seamstress. So this is somebody's daughter right here, right? And they had So this is somebody's daughter right here, and they had her on the auction block, right? So this is real, and there's nothing that these people can do about it. Right? You think these different slaves they're advertising as property that they could do anything about it? What are you going? They couldn't do nothing. Right? Let's go to another one. Right? All right. So y'all probably can't see this. I'm gonna show it to y'all, but it's like you gotta kind of zoom in. Right? I'm gonna zoom in for y'all. So it says slaves, right? And check this out, right? You got Lucy, a young woman of good character, but it said here Fanny, about 14-year-old house servant. Sarah, about 14-year-old house servant. These girls is 14 years old. They was 14 years old, and they was selling them off. So that curse right there in Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 32 when it says thy sons and thy daughters shall be given to another people, you think these slaves they didn't want to see that imagine that, right? You can just see it. They on the auction block, right? Somebody take their child. All they could do was literally look. That's the visual. They could literally look, dang. And there was nothing that they could do about it. That's why it says no might in thine hand. It was nothing our forefathers could have did to stop their children from being taken away from them. Right? That's just how it is. Right? That's just how it is. It's sad, but again, we only trying to figure out what nation of people fits these curses. Because this didn't happen to the Arab man. This didn't happen to the Chinese man, right? It happened to your neighborhood white man, right? Your friendly neighborhood white man. No, it happened to Bob or Billy. It happened to them, but it did happen to your Tay Tays and your Sharondas and your Roberts, whatever you want to say. Yeah, it happened to our people, man. Right? We are the one fitting these curses. Right? So and what's so crazy says also for sale. Right? We was for sale like, you know, just like property, right? Let's see it. So and I'm gonna bring out another point, right? So you got some people that might say, well, that was a long time ago, right? Let's go and see what nation of people, right, or what people are more likely, children are more likely with CPS, right? So CPS is Child Protective Services, right? So if they deem that you being an unfit parent, they can take their children from you, right? So let's see what race, who's doing this, what races, what ethnicities. Let's see who's matching these curses. Because if you can't stop CPS, they want to take your kids, right? So let's hop into it. It's black children. Black children have consistently higher rates of child protective services investigations in the U.S. The risk of CPS contact is unequally distributed by race and ethnicity, with black children experiencing the highest rates of later stage CPS contact, including confirmed maltreatment, foster. See, and that's up to their eyes, right? It says foster care placement and termination of parental rights, right? So they can terminate your parental rights, and there's nothing you can do about it. And look what it says, right? We number one. The so-called blacks is number one. So back then in slavery, they could take our children, sell it to the highest bidder. Now CPS can take our children, take it to whoever foster home, or sell it to the highest bidder. Because when you go to these foster homes, what happens? They get money for these children. You got some people, they say, well, I want to look at what happened, right, with that white couple, right, that had all those children, those so-called black children in that basement and had them as slaves. But they say, oh, they was in foster care because they had maltreatment, or they wasn't safe with their parents. But they can be safe with somebody that'll make them a slave. Come on now. When you look at our children, how they're treated in foster care situations, some of them get abused, some of them get SA, right? So what are we talking about? They put on that facade. Oh, these are unfit parents, but it's all a scheme to keep the money going. The same thing, is different name, right? Let's go out. Let's go down. Right? It says this right quick. Right, let's read this right quick. It says this article, and all these things that we bring out as information is for educational purposes, right? Educational purposes. It says this article provides county level estimates of the cumulative prevalence of 4 levels of child protective services contact using administrative data from the 20 most populous counties in the United States. Rates of CPS investigation are extremely high in almost every county. Racial and ethnic inequality in case outcomes, still inequality. There's no inequality in this, but it's large in some counties. The total, it says ethnic inequality. That's crazy. The total median investigation rate was 34.5%. The risk of Black, Hispanic, and white children exceeded 10% of counties. Risk of having CPS investigations were highest for Black children. Black children also experience high rates of later stage CPS contact with the rates. So it's literally right here. So when it comes to, right, possibly our children, we gotta worry. We gotta worry about, right? Our people. This is what our brother. You might say, well, I don't have to worry about it, but there are a lot of brothers or sisters in a totality, so-called Blacks and Hispanics, they got to deal with their children getting taken away from them, right? But that goes back to the curses. Because of our disobedience to the Most High, that's why this has happened to us. That's why they can take our children from us so freely. Because we broke the commandments. We broke God's commandments. And this was one of the consequences that he said would happen to his people, to the Israelites. This is what God said would happen to his chosen people for their disobedience. But yet again, we're seeing that when it comes to the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we are the people that's top in all these curses, that's matching all these curses. It's not the so-called white man. It's not a Chinese man that we're seeing. It's not the Arab man that we're seeing. We're seeing us, right? So, I did want to bring out. I had another article as well. I want to bring out, right? Then it's just to back this up, right? Right. So it says, what is the gender breakdown in the number of children in foster care? In the same report, AFCARS found that in 2022, 51% of children in foster care were male and 49% were female. Are there ethnic and racial disproportionalities in the foster care system? Historically, children of color have been disproportionately represented in child welfare system. According to a 2011 study, 1 in 17 kids enter foster care, right? So it's saying 1 in 17 kids. But for Black children, the placement rate increases to 1 in 9. So for every 9 children, so-called Black children, 1 goes into foster care. That's what the statistic is saying from this 2011 study, right? Then you got 1 in 7 Native American children. Are we following what's going on here? When we looking at these curses, we're looking at what the Lord said would happen to these Israelites, but we're looking at how the so-called Blacks are living, we're looking at how so-called Hispanics are living, and we're looking at how the so-called Native Americans are living, and we're matching up with these curses every time. I mean, but we're going to keep going though, right? So I think that's all I had on that article right there. That's it. What is it? Hold on. exactly what I wanted. This is exactly what I wanted. Right? It's another article. Right? It says this. It says black children are disproportionately represented in foster care. This is due to a myriad of interrelated socio-economic factors, but studies suggest the biggest reasons are the higher rate of poverty among African Americans. Wait, what? Let's go back. Let's go back now. When we think about it, one of the things is we will be cursed in the city. And one of the curses is of being in the city is poverty. Poverty is a curse. So it's saying that there's a higher rate of poverty among African Americans, and that's part of the reason why their kids get taken away from them. It's crazy, right? So let's see what we have here. All right, we're gonna jump down. It says, oh man, we got to keep going. It says African American children across the nation are more than twice as likely to enter foster care compared to white children. And they stay in foster care about 9 months longer, according to the influential study released in 2007 by the Annie E. Casey Foundation, African American Children in Foster Care. All right, so where there's twice as more chances for them to go in compared to a so-called white, right? And they so-called white because the so-called white man is called Esau. That's his name. He's Esau. He's the children of Edom, right? They're the Edomites, right? The Edomites. You got the Edomites, and you got the other nations, and you got the Israelites, which would be the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. When you look at them in America, you see them in all these different conditions, right? The poverty conditions, right? The mental health conditions, right? The drug conditions, right? The crime conditions, right? We see this, right? The domestic violence conditions, right? We see this, right? The trauma conditions. Why? Because they broke God's law, statutes, commandments. That's why. But it's pinnacle to realizing who you are. And being that we got put in this predicament because of our own wrongdoing, that's why it's also going to accountability. Right? And that's what goes back to what we was reading here in Baruch, right? Where it says this, right? It says, Baruch 2:33, in return from their stiff neck. So let's say in the land of their captivity, they're going to return from their stiff neck ways, right? And from their wicked deeds. For they shall remember the way of their fathers, which have sinned before the Lord, right? And we're going to remember the way of our fathers, right? We look at what our forefathers. First of all, we got to remember the laws that was given to our forefathers that they broke, right? We got to look at that. Remember those laws that our forefathers broke. What laws were they? That's when you read your Genesis, Leviticus, Exodus, Deuteronomy, Numbers, right? And as you keep reading, there's laws throughout the Bible, right? But that's what chiefly the law is, right? But when you go into different parts, you'll see them mention different laws. When you go into the Bible, you read it, you'll see them mention different laws. But anyways, our forefathers broke the law, right? And our people still doing it to this day. That's why we got to return from that state of being wicked, right? And being wicked is just being a sinner. That's what it is. And a sinner, in a plain term, is somebody that breaks God's law. That's what a sinner is, right? So, right, we gonna hold off on that. Let me go. Right here. Right, hold on. Just give me a second. Bear with me. Right, hold on. Bear with me. I send this message out real fast. Right. So boom. All right, now let's go back to what we was reading. Right. All right. Dang. So. Yeah, that's what it's at. That's what it's at. Right. We back here. Right. So it says this. I want to keep it on. It says we see firsthand how institutional racism contributes to more African American children experience abuse and neglect, pushes more of them into foster care, and leaves them marginalized by the adoption process. So it's a whole institutional racism thing going on. And we know this. We know this. And if you don't know this, you gotta open your eyes. But how? How did such wicked people who have, because we didn't create institutional racism, the so-called black man that was enslaved, was oppressed in this land, he didn't create institutional racism. Who did? Who created institutional racism? Right? Who created bigotry? Who was it? Who was doing these things? So-called white man. But one would think, well, how did this man, how did he get to the point to do all this to us? How did we get beneath him? Because we broke the laws. Right? Let's go to another law. Right. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter. We're gonna go to. Dang, this whole thing goes so crazy. But I want to go to Dang man, and I'm gonna get that on the next one though. But I'm going to verse 23. I'm going to verse 23. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 23. Right. Let's go to 23. It says, "In thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, right? And the earth that is under thee shall be iron." Right? Because when we go into what we just read, right? You gotta peek between the lines, right? Let's go back to that right there. Read this again. Right? It says this. We see firsthand how institutional racism contributes to more African American children experience abuse and neglect. So you got it because of racism, now they experience more abuse and neglect. It says what? Pushes more of them into foster care. So then because of that, now it pushes more of them into foster care. Then it says and leaves them marginalized by the adoption process. So not only that, now they're marginalized in the adoption process. Now that's why it takes them 9 months longer to be adopted. Now it's why it's two times the chance of them to get adopted. Go into foster care of a so-called white child, right? It says in this moment, national reckoning and social unrest, we want to consider the millions of children. All right, so let's sit on that. So, but why? When you look at the situation, it's like these so-called African American children, Hispanic children, they in a sticky situation, or for better words, or better phrase, a rock in a hard place. So when it says here Thy heaven that is over thy head should be as brass. So you gotta imagine brass pushing down, because brass is a metal. It's a heavy metal. Pushing down. And it says in the earth that is under thee shall be as iron. So what you have is a rock and a hard place. You got brass above you and iron below. Two hard places above and below you. A rock and a hard place. In the straight, right? In a messed up situation. You know, that's the nice way of saying that. But that's how it is. We got so much pitted against us as a nation. Right? We already grew up in the hardest neighborhoods to live in. We already got to deal with the dope boys. We already got to deal with the single parent households. We got to deal with so much. That's that rock in the hard place. That's that heaven having that heaven of brass, right, in that earth of iron. Oh, let me see something. Let me see what I get. So that's what that is, right? So now I want to I want to bring this precept out though, right? In second interest. But hold on, I did want to finish this too. I wanted to bring this out too. Yeah, 25. I want to get 25 before I go to 20. Before I go to second edges, right? I do want to get 25. It says, "The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies." Right? So the Lord said we're going to be smitten before our enemies, and we have been getting smitten before the so-called white man. And if you know the history of the Israelites and the Edomites, they've been our enemies for thousands of years. Thousands of years. And not only are we getting smitten before those people, we getting smitten before the Moabites, the Arabs, right? The dirty, stinking Africans. We got enemies all around us in this filthy land called Babylon, right? The melting pot. And we're getting smitten before our enemies, right? Thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them, right? And shall be removed into all kingdoms of the earth. And so when you realize it says, "Thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before," what happened in 70 AD? Right? When the diaspora happened. And all those Jews had to travel from Jerusalem to southern parts of Africa, southern and western parts of Africa, right? The Lord made us flee from our enemies. We went all kinds of different ways. Some Israelites went this place, some Israelites went that place. So we went wherever. And then when the translated slave trade happened, man, we got sent to North America, Central America, South America, Europe. We was all over the world. All over the world. Still lives to this day. Right? So how is it that these people, again, they this happened because we broke the law, statutes, commandments. Because if that wasn't the case, then that means there would be another nation that had to fit these curses. What other race fits these curses of Deuteronomy that we're talking about? Is this happening to the so-called Chinese man? Is he leading in poverty? Is he leading in single parent household, domestic violence, crime rate against one another, children in foster care? Is he the one doing that? What about Arab man? You see a whole bunch of Arab kids in foster care. You see a bunch of poor Arab children in the hood. You got to ask yourself this. And you might say, well, I didn't grow up in the hood. My people got bread. Okay, you do, but it's a lot of our people that don't have bread, right? So let's go to oh yeah, I want to bring this precept out, right? In Second Ezra chapter 6. Second Ezra chapter 6, man. It's good stuff, man. All right. Second Ezra chapter 6 and verse. We go right here. It says this. And now, I'm going to 2 Ezra 6 and 57. It says, and now, O Lord, behold, these heathen, which have ever been reputed as nothing, have begun to be lords of us and to devour us, right? So these nations have begun to be lords over us and to devour us, but aren't we the chosen? Right? So I'm going to go to this precept, right? You know, it's a lot of them that you can get, but it's something I want to get in particular. First, I want to show the. I'm gonna show you the blessing first, right? Because we the Lord, that was part of the deal at first, right? But then I'm gonna show you, right, the curse, right? The contrary to the so it says this in Deuteronomy 28 and verse number 1, right? It says this. It says, it shall come to pass if thou shalt hearken diligently, right, to the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. Very, very, very plain. We had to keep the commandments. The Lord said he would place us above all nations on earth. And again, that was if we did what Lord say do. But there's a uno reverse to that card though. There's a reverse to that card. To the blessing, there's literally a uno reverse to that joint, right? And this the uno reverse to it, right? What that joint at? Right, verse 43. It says, "The stranger that's within thee shall get above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low." So now we see, right, these heathen, these strangers that's above us, and now we're in this lower state. Why? Because we're in the land of our captivity, right? And because not because we let us say, but because we broke the law, statutes, commandments. That's why, right? So let me see what I'm at on my timing. So on, so on. Right? So, we're not gonna pay attention to the so on. I'm just reading the comments. It says Josephus says the Jews were connected to these curses during the war between 63 70. Right. The Jews, right? And that's understanding who the Jews are. Right? That's understanding who the Jews are. Right? There's I'm gonna show that. But yeah, I was reading this comment by SOG says Josephus says that the Jews were connected to these curses during the war between 63 and 70 AD. Right, that's very correct. And that's why it's very important to understand who these people are, right? Who are the Jews, right? So, and that's why we going into curses to figure out who the Jews are, right? Because a lot of the curses that we talk about also was applied also to what happened in 70 AD in Jerusalem, right? when you go into how they was besieged and how they was famished, right? And some of them had committed cannibalism, right? That's a part of the curses, and that happened during the Roman Jewish wars, right? So we got to realize who these people, who the Jews are, right? That's why we get into Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 68, and various other curses, right? That's why we got to get into this thing, right? Right, and we just gonna ignore the faith tale person because they don't know this, they don't know what's going on, right? So, anyways, so like I was saying though, so let's go back to what it says. So again, the reason why again you see the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans in the condition that they are now, and why they're at such a low state, is because the law was given to them as a people, right? Now I'm gonna go to something right here. We gotta remember that we was these same people that said this, right? It's very important right here. It says this. It says this right quick. It says this is Exodus chapter 24 and verse 7. So the Israelites, same people that's in Deuteronomy that's talking about, right? They made a covenant with the Lord, right? In the book of Exodus, right? Now, again, we realize that according to not only to facts, statistics, the Bible, geographical history, so many things, different artifacts, that the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans is God chosen people, the Israelites, right? It's just facts, right? But when you go to Exodus 24 and 7, it says, and he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people, and they said, all that the Lord have said, we will do and be obedient. So we them same people that said, all you say, Lord, we're going to do that. Right? It says, and Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, behold, the blood of the covenant which the Lord have made with you concerning all these words. So that contract, that covenant that we said we gonna honor this. When we did the breach of contract, right? Then we had to deal with the consequences, and that's why you see why we in this estate now, right? And one will say, well, how come we don't go by Israelites anymore, right? No, that was Israelites, right? That was Israelites. Yes, the Lord said, because Lord, you gotta remember, the Lord promised to Abraham that he's gonna be that with the promise that he made to his children, right? He's fulfilling that, right? But anyways, so let's go back here, right? To Deuteronomy 28. All right, let's keep going. All right, so again, we was the people that did that breach of contract, so we had to deal with the consequences for that, right? Now, again, what I said, now one will say, well, how do we not know? Why our name ain't Israel still? Why are we not called by the name Yasha Allah anymore? Right? Well, let's get into it. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28 and verse 37 first, and then I'm going to go to Jeremiah after that. But it's right here, Deuteronomy 28 and 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment. And when you look at again, this is another curse. When you look at the so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans as a race, we're more of astonishment than any other nation. When you look who's entertainment for the world. Who is entertainment for the world? Ask yourself. Is the so-called white man entertainment for the world? Who was the people that had little clown face, the bright red lips and the smiley face, who they call coons and porch monkeys. It was entertainment back then with even more entertainment now. Who leads in the music industry? The entertainment industry of music. Who leads? The so-called black man in his rap music. That's one of the biggest music industries there is. That's where they make their most money. On us rapping about killing, unaliving each other, and selling drugs to one another, and how much money we got, and how much designer we got, and whoring out our women. It's an industry. Entertainment, astonishment. Our people are entertained by us. That's an astonishment. People are entertained by us saying negative connotations about ourselves. That's an astonishment. People are making money off us to talk crazy or talk negative about ourselves. When you look at the sports entertainment, basketball, who's leading that? Football, who's leading that? Right? A proverb. You know what a proverb is? A proverb is a wise saying. Right? There are many sayings. If I want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book. Black people love watermelon. Black people love chicken. Right? Well, they're nothing but thugs. Well, they're going to end up in jail anyways. A byword. A byword is a name or something that's given to you that's not really your technical name. So that's why you have, when it comes to any other race, the Chinese man has always been the Chinese man. The so-called white man, so-called, I say, always been that, or Caucasian, European, whatever you want to call it. When it comes to us, who was Negro, Afro, black, colored, African American, we had so many days. I talked to a sister. She was an elderly sister. She said while she was growing up throughout the years, she witnessed us being called several different names, which would fall under the category of a byword, right? So let's go to Jeremiah, right? And then when you think about it, right, what was our heritage? I ask people this all the time. What was our heritage or our culture prior to coming to America? Because you hear about every other nation, because if you go into world history, which a lot of people probably did when you're going into school, right? They teach you about the different dynasties that China had, right? The Han dynasty. They talk about that. They even talk about the different Persian what happened with the Persians, right? They talk about that. They talk about Genghis Khan. They talk about these different things. But when they talk about us prior to coming to America, what do you hear? What do you learn about? Oh, we were just in Africa? Africa does have over 50 countries. Where did the so-called black man come from? Israel, right? He's Israelites going to the Bible. Anyways, Deuteronomy 17:4, right? And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. So Lord told the Israelites that they were going to discontinue from their heritage. That's why now you have so-called black people call themselves, I'm a black man. I'm a black man. My jacket is black. I don't look nowhere near black. We don't have any of the people or descendants that look this color, right? It's a color in a crayon box, right? What did we eat before? What did we wear? You see what I'm saying? The Lord told us we were going to discontinue from our heritage. He told us this. He said, I will cause thee to serve thine enemies. So when we talk about the small hat people. I'm gonna say it like that. The small hat people. If you don't know who small hat people is, look it up. But the small hat people with little curly little hairs right there, that's all I'm gonna say. When it comes to those people, where do you see them serving their enemies? Where do you see them being discontinued from their heritage? What do you see this at? Well, you see it in so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American, a destroyed people. The people whose only culture right now is rap culture, gang culture, athletic culture. That's our culture. So-called, right? Discontinued from heritage, right? So, right. So that's what it is. Right. Now, as me read this comment before I say sorry. Right, I get you. It does say that, right? It does say that a mixed multitude left with them. But when you realize this, right, a lot of those people got killed off. No, all of you got killed off, right? Except for Caleb and Joshua. Say Caleb and Joshua and the children that was under 20 years old. So that whole crap, mixed multitude crap, that's done away with. It's like that's not a good standpoint. So by the time it was said and done, when all those people got killed off, it was just Israelites. It was just Israelites. So that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like very plainly, we here for the so-called blacks, Hispanic, Native Americans, God's chosen people. You know what I'm saying? We don't have time to make these different nations our focal points. Our focal points are our people because they're discontinued from their heritage. They don't know who we are according to the Bible. So we gotta do what we can to let them know, hey, you are God's chosen people. Now it's time to remember the Lord and come back to His commandments, right? So these are curses that we're gonna cover today. But we're not gonna do another part on this because there's more curses in the Bible that shows that we are God's chosen people, right? And we're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it, Lord willing. But Lord willing, this is edified through the Spirit, right? Okay, brother. But yeah, Lord willing, that's edified through the Spirit. I want to give all the glory to Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. I want to say Shalom. Come Shalom.